Hey, so here's a guaranteed way to get you drawing more. If you're one of those people who has a real problem trying to get themselves to draw, like it's a real mental game for you, then good, because that means you're normal. I don't think that ever goes away, but there are some things that certainly make it a lot easier. They're very simple ideas and concepts, and if you're comfortable with either one, it'll make your life a lot easier when it comes to sitting down, making yourself draw, practice, and study. But like I said, remember, it doesn't ever go away, right? That's good. That means you're normal. That means you're out of your comfort zone. You're trying things that are uncomfortable for you, but that's how you grow. Try these things out and see what works best for you. The idea is this. It's called the MVA, the minimum viable action. Basically, you want to ask yourself, what is the easiest, laziest, fastest thing I can do today that counts as a step towards my big art goal that I'd be happy with? Okay, I'm gonna give you an example. So for me, I think my MVA, my minimum viable action towards my art goals, would just be to put pencil to paper and draw one thing. Because if I can draw one thing today, I know that I can draw 2 things the next day, and 3 things the next, and 4 things, and then the next thing you know, I'm drawing 17 things, and I'm filling up an entire page, and then the day after that, I'm filling up 2 pages, or 3 pages, right? It'll just snowball. But it all starts with you doing one thing. So look at your art goals, right? Deconstruct all the things that make up what exactly it is that you want to do for your art, and try and find the easiest, fastest, and laziest thing that you can do today that does count towards that great, big, ambitious art goal in the horizon. The key is a major key to only let yourself do that one thing. So don't you dare give me any less or any more than that one thing that you promised. My MVA for today is going to be to draw a potato. That's it. If I draw a potato, I've not only set my expectations appropriately for what I want to get out of my art training today, but I've set it at an attainable goal such that I won't be always disappointed if I don't hit that goal. I think it's bad that, you know, us as artists, we're always like very ambitious and we set such high goals because it thinks it'll make us stronger or smarter somehow when we set the bar up so high that we never hit it at all. I think there's evidence to support the idea that feeling bad about yourself isn't good. There's studies to show that people usually rate some kind of loss as being 4 times more painful than gaining the same thing. So in our case, when it comes to losing out on our expectations, just remember that it could be quadruply harmful to us than actually attaining an expectation or a goal we've set out for ourselves. There's also one more idea I want to throw at you in regards to the MVA. It's the idea of a near miss, and this is what makes like video games so addicting, right? The near miss is that you come really close to your goal that you set out for yourself, but you just miss it, like you almost attain it. But the psychology behind that near miss just pushes you to drive even harder and to keep going until you get to that goal. What it all comes down to really with the MVA is to set realistic goals. You can set a goal that's below what you'd realistically be able to attain or accomplish today, or you can set one slightly above what you'd realistically be able to attain or accomplish, and to hopefully, you know, trigger that near miss phenomenon where you'll just be driven into like a berserk mode frenzy and do whatever you can to get that extra 5% to accomplish your goal. I mean, I think that's healthy as well, and it's more passionate, and you know, we're all about passion, aren't we? Fuck. And in contrast to balling down for our goals that we set for ourselves, setting it just high enough out of our reach, triggering that near miss, that's really exciting. That gets us really fired up and passionate about our goals and what we're hoping to accomplish. And, you know, that's what makes art fun. You've effectively just gamified art. You've made it as addicting as a mobile game. Maybe actually not as addicting as, say, like Honkai Third Impact. But I digress. Now, just something to keep in mind, your action for your minimum viable action, that's something that should be fluid, right? That's something that you should be scaling up or scaling back appropriately as the days go on. If you're finding that something's too easy, you obviously want to make it harder for yourself and make it challenging. That's how you get better. If you're finding your action that you're setting for yourself to be way too ambitious, it does merit you taking a step back and asking yourself if it might be worth scaling back a bit. So there you go. There's an idea for you. Minimum viable action. Give it a try. I do want to give you one other alternative to that. If that doesn't work for you, you can try this instead. So first of all, I used to have a real problem sitting down and getting work done. Maybe it was my ADHD, maybe it was my mental health, maybe I'm just like a really shitty student and a lazy person overall. Maybe it's a little bit of everything. But I did this, and this really helped for me. I call it, I'm sure there's a better word for this, or a better term, but I call it passive drawing, okay? The problem with sitting down and getting a lot of work done is that in your mind, you have all these other things you'd rather be doing. And it's just so happens that we live in an era where we have all these other things that we can be doing, right? And that's what creates the paradox of choice, right? The Netflix effect, right? You have all these options and you're just paralyzed. You don't even know what you want to watch in the first place. For us, we don't even know what we want to do because we can do anything, literally anything.
You can do anything. Anything's possible. The world is yours.
So in regards to passive drawing, let me ask you this. Why don't you just do the thing you want to do? If you want to watch a movie, watch a movie. And at the boring parts, have your sketchbook in your lap and just doodle. Doodle mindlessly in your sketchbook. But after that movie, maybe you can transition into a documentary, right? Something that's a bit less engaging, with a bit less drama and these ups and downs, unless you're watching BBC Earth. Oh my god. So now you're engaged in an activity that you like just as much, with a bit more passive time for you to draw. After that, maybe you can transition to something with a bit more passive drawing time, say watching a YouTube video, right? Sometimes these videos just go on and 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 on, and you just maybe want to watch the one part, and for the rest of the video you could just be drawing and kind of, you know, half-heartedly listening and watching what they're saying or doing. And from there, maybe you could transition into something that's not visual at all, right? You can go into an audiobook, listen to an audiobook you really like. And from there, maybe you can transition to something that's non-narrative, say maybe a podcast. From there, you can transition to something that's maybe non-verbal or less verbal, say like music. And from there, ambient music. From there, white noise. From there, silence. This is like a 10-hour long process, but guess what? You got to do everything you wanted to do in that 10 hours time, and you were drawing. You were drawing. So you can go to sleep in peace knowing that not only did you do all the things you wanted to do today, but you also did drawing. You also did some legitimate work. But more importantly than that, you should feel very good about yourself because you took your art training into your own hands and you tried something new. Even though it was a 10-hour long process, regardless whether you succeeded or failed, you took your training into your own hands, and that's really commendable because people don't do that. People don't do that enough, man. So that's passive drawing. That's a very, very long process of passive drawing, and it could work for you. It definitely did work for me. It's what it took for me to get drawing some days, where I'd have to make these deals with myself to watch a movie and afterwards watch a lesser active movie, watch a show, listen to an audiobook, listen to a podcast, listen to music instead, and then by the end of 10 hours, guess what? I'm drawing in silence. But if you can train yourself to do that, you could probably train yourself the following day to start off with a movie and to go from movie to drawing in 5 hours. And who knows, maybe the week after you can go from movie to drawing in 2 hours. What's important is that you just like get a start on doing one thing. There's a Reddit post that I really love called No More 0 Days, which is just the idea of doing one thing for yourself every single day. You don't have to follow it through. You don't have to succeed. You just have to try. And as long as you try, you've done a thing for yourself. You're not going to have a 0 day. And you know, in a sense, these two ideas of the minimum viable action and the very long form passive drawing transition, they both really champion that spirit of a no 0 day. I'll link to that article down below. Give it a read. It's very positive, very motivational, very encouraging, and it's basically what we're talking about here. At this point, I'd honestly love to know how you deconstruct your art goals, what you consider your minimum viable actions are for getting yourself to draw or study, practice, or to make a piece, and if you have any better ideas or alternatives to these two. This is just what I got off the top myself. Comment down below. I'd love to know what you guys think. And I'd pose another question for you too while we're at it. The idea of a minimum viable action, where else could this apply to your life? Maybe in making videos?
NANI?
I love making these videos, but I'm just so bad because I shoot so high sometimes, and my scripts are so ambitious, and I just can't do it, and it's paralyzing sometimes. Maybe making a minimal edit, one take video on a very simple concept of just getting yourself to draw. Maybe this is my minimum viable action for an art video. Minimal scripting, just a few bullet form notes, and mostly just me riffing off of that, 1 or 2 sentences for each point. You know, I think the root issue is a much more fundamental problem, and it's just that we're not paying attention, right? How could we? Like, we're in this, we're in a time of just information overload, especially on YouTube, we're in the era of meme editing and jump cuts. Like we want you to just go, and as a result you're being overstimulated, and as a result you're seeking overstimulation. And an activity as mellow and as low-key as drawing or painting, sometimes that just doesn't satisfy our dopamine junkie that we call our brain, and that's what makes it so difficult. You know, they say set your eyes on the horizon, always keep your end game in mind. Although that's a good idea, I think that's dangerous, because in looking so far over the horizon, sometimes we forget what we're walking into the first place. Next thing you'll know, you'll walk into a signpost. There's something to be said about having double vision, you know, and being nearsighted and farsighted at the same time. And even though that's not possible, we can make tools for ourselves that allow us to do that, right? Journaling is a great way. Taking time to just reflect on your training, long-term and short-term, at the end of each day or each week. That's a really good idea that I'm not doing, but that's a good idea. In a sense, we want art bifocals, right? We want a tool that'll let us be nearsighted and farsighted at the same time. That's ideal. So the last thing I want to take us out on is just the idea of trying to pay more attention to what things are demanding our attention, and if those things are worthy of our attention, you know? This whole video, you've been listening to my voice and watching my face as if I knew what I'm talking about, but there could be details like right in front of you that you're missing out on. Like how about the fact that I might not be wearing an Adidas tracksuit? This is just something my friend made that looks pretty good. Damn. All right. I mean, that's one example, right? But what about your own life? What are the things around you that are demanding your attention that really aren't worthy of your attention, you know? Social media, for one. How about some toxic people in your life? How about some guilty pleasures you have that you could cut back on indulging in for some time? I really empathize with the struggle of trying to get work done, trying to get art done, because that's such a real issue, man. And in a sense, because it's such a real issue, maybe that's the only issue. Maybe that's the only thing that we need to work on and focus on. And if we can master and overcome this one thing, everything else will just roll in and be easy street. I always say that if you can learn art, you can learn anything, and I still stand by that. Like, I feel In the couple of months that I've been out of school, experimenting, trying out things on my own, I feel a lot more, man, I definitely feel a lot more confident in taking a crack at a new endeavor or craft or just an interest I've always had but just have been afraid to try or haven't had the time to. Like I've always wanted to try skateboarding, you know? Maybe I'll do a video on I'll buy a board and do a video on skateboarding if I don't break the board. But let's try and reframe what learning art really means for us, you know? Like learning art isn't learning art, it's just learning anything. And if you can get good at learning something in as abstract, as messed up, as strange as art, dude, you can learn anything. You're good. You dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball.
If you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball.
This is your wrench. I'm pointing to my sketchbook right now. This is your wrench. This is your wrench, okay? Do this and it all comes easy. So give it a try. It is worth your time, it is worth experimenting, and it is worth suffering and failing because that's the only way we grow. Like, comment, subscribe.
Fuck this.
Succeed, you must believe. Life is what you make it. So let's make it.